I get a lot of phone calls, and the first question that they ask is, do you do testing for mold? And of course we do. Everybody does. That's the last line of defense. I try to avoid collecting samples for laboratory analysis because of simply depending on the method of collection, it's terribly inaccurate. To sample for air, if you imagine um, a bedroom that's 10 feet wide, 10 feet long, 8 feet ceiling, that's 22,650 liters of air. The devices that we use, and we all use the same stuff. The device that we use are little Oreo cookies. I'm going to call it that. It's anyways, 2 pieces of plastic, and inside it is a sticky plate that's about 3/4 of an inch long, about a 1/2 inch wide. And the idea is that you put on the bottom this suction pump, and through the top it looks like a little funnel. And so the idea is that you collect 75 liters of air. And the idea is that the debris that's in the air gets sucked into the funnel and hits the plate and sticks. The problem is the manufacturer suggests 75 liters. And the reason that they do that is that if you imagine looking down on a pile of wood or sticks, and it's being piled on top of each other, there's just a point where you can't read what's on the bottom. And that's called slide overload. So they suggest 75 liters. The problem is that in a 10-foot by 10-foot bedroom, that's only 0.003% of the air. Now, air is extremely heterogeneous. There are big balls and little fragments. So if you can imagine collecting any kind of a sample that represents 0.003% of air, you're not getting a real good statistical representation of what's in the air. So you can collect 2 samples side by side. One would have 100 of something, the other would be 500 of something. Statistically, they're identical results. And folks, consultants don't follow that line of thought. And so, and you never determine a course of action based on the laboratory result of an air sample, unless it's extremely different. Like if you have Aspergillus penicillium and you've got 50 outside and you have 10,000 inside, now you have my attention. Then you do have a reservoir. But it has to be some really extreme issues. I think consultants generally collect samples up front because they don't understand what they're doing. And remember, people don't hire me to collect a sample. People hire me to interpret the laboratory data from the samples that are collected. A lot of consultants don't know the difference between cladosporium, basidiospores, and chitonium. And those 3 different types of species have very unique, different requirements for germination and growth. So if you meet someone like that, don't hire him, find someone else. When I go into a house, I normally just carry a flashlight, and I go from the basement to the attic. And if you can find it, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever to collect a sample. You can see it. There's no discussion. There it is. The technical approach of removing it doesn't change based on what kind it is. And whether or not you remove it doesn't matter, because you have to remove it anyway. You never tolerate the existence of mold growth within the envelope of the house. So anyway, that's not a good question to start with. The best question is, I may have an indoor air quality issue. Can you help me?